little sidekick buddy with me, linked to the theme. And yeah, the theme this week is physics. And I thought back, like, what aspect of physics do I like? And I remembered that in grade 7, I did a science fair project talking about light and its colors. And I know that a lot of you now know that I'm very much a comic book geek. So I thought, light, comic books, who am I going with? I'm going with some green lanterns. So I brought a couple of my green lanterns with me today. So I brought John Stewart. He's a Green Lantern of Earth. You can see him there. He's got a pretty slick suit. He's looking cool. He's popping out some constructs there. So that figure looks a little bit more realistic. I have another Green Lantern, but she's a little more cartoony. She doesn't look like this all the time. This is Jessica Cruz, and they've made her a crossing guard for some reason. So Jessica Cruz is another Green Lantern of Earth. One of my favorite ones, though, not always guarding Earth. If you don't know what the Green Lanterns are, they're kind of like this intergalactic police force protecting people, kind of like what Captain Marvel does for Marvel. They sort of do for the DC universe. This one's one of my favorite. He's goofy. He might be a friend of Lexi's, but his name is Chip. It's a Green Lantern squirrel. I thought that's awesome. I don't know why there's a Green Lantern squirrel. It seems kind of weird. And I actually own a Green Lantern power ring as well. So that's hopefully going to bring me some luck. And if you've ever noticed my hand, I actually wear a power ring all the time. Because 1, I'm super nerdy. And 2, also super nerdy. But that's actually for the Indigo tribe. So it's really neat in the comics. If you know about light and its colors, there's an acronym to help you remember them. It's Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, Roy G, blue, indigo, and violet. And what they've done in the comic books is they've taken those light colors and assigned them to certain emotions. So the Green Lanterns, who are generally the good guys, their thing is willpower. The indigo folks, the reason I wear this, their thing is compassion. And if you don't know what compassion is, it's being nice. It's being nice not only to other people, but also to yourself. Because I'll be honest, I get hard on myself a lot sometimes. I beat myself up. Not like physically, but I think, oh. So I like having them around. And then do you guys know who the enemy is of the Green Lantern? Sinestro's one. He's a yellow lantern, and their power is fear. They're jerks. I wouldn't want fear. It's not good. I sometimes get afraid, which is why I try to be compassionate to myself. So that's who's going to be helping me out today. Maybe you got some sidekicks with you. Maybe it's a sibling. I hope you're not like sitting on your sibling or anything like sitting on their head and be like, ha, you're my sidekick. Because that's not very compassionate, and they probably don't appreciate that. All right, so today, as we're doing the quiz, we'll be using some of the same tools as we always have. Just a couple of reminders and a bonus reminder for today. So first, the chat, please only use the chat if something is going wrong. Like if you're having trouble seeing me, hearing something, can't see the answers or anything like that. As I've said before, imagine that's the bat signal, or you're calling Chip and he's coming to help you out. Use that for only emergency stuff. The Q&A you can use for a whole bunch of other things, so just like regular questions. If you're like, Charles, your jokes are ridiculous, or show me more of that with a little squirrel, use it for that. And the extra bonus fact is this. So it came to my attention that I guess last week some people weren't being very, if you will, to use another word we learned today, compassionate. There was some bullying. I, for one, I do not stand bullying. In elementary school and high school, I was bullied every single year, which really stinks, and it's not fun. And it took me a long time. Do you remember we talked about Beast last week, the superhero Beast? He got comfortable in his own skin. It took a long time for me to be comfortable in mine. So if anyone starts bullying tonight, that's really, 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 really not cool. I want you to remember that we're doing this to have fun. Yes, I'm tricking you into learning, and you're getting to see a very old person talk about really geeky, nerdy things, and that's cool. But I want you to have fun. I don't want you to stress. I am not going to make fun of you if you get an answer wrong. In all honesty, who cares? Like, we want you to study. We want you to try. But if you get it wrong, so what? If you remember last week, one of the things we talked about, the person talked about in their video, the scientific method. And that one thing you have to be really comfortable with in science is failing. Not like your course is, but if you do an experiment and you know what the answer is going to be, you don't really have a hypothesis. You have to sort of prove that thing. It's okay to get things wrong. Okay, don't sweat it. Be chill, relax, and please don't let anyone like get on you about this stuff. If you get an answer wrong, so what, man? Let's have fun together. That's the key thing. The last thing we will use periodically is the raise hand function. So, oh man, I gotta come up with a new one. Okay. I really like licorice as a candy. If red licorice is your favorite licorice of the two kinds of licorice, hands up if red's your thing. Okay, we're getting like 30 people, 40 people. Perfect. Okay, you can put your hands in. in my house, I know we've talked about this. You might be like, how are you and your wife happy? We live in a house divided. My wife thinks that black licorice is disgusting, and I think black licorice is amazing. If you prefer black licorice to red licorice, hands up. Oh, the group is smaller here. You're a strong but mighty, or small but mighty. I mean, okay, you can put your hands down. Hands up if you're like, dude, I don't like licorice at all. I would eat any other candy other than licorice. This group is the biggest one by a couple people. Perfect. All right, you can put your hands down. Can I just do one more? I know it's weird that a grown up is like telling you stuff and giving you advice. Can we just do hands up? We're going to be cool with it tonight. We're not going to bully anyone. We're not going to do any of that garbage, please. Awesome. Put your hands down. Thank you very, very much for understanding that. The other thing is, I know some people are like, why aren't you answering my questions? If the folks dismiss your questions, it's not that we don't want to talk to you. It's two reasons. And the first one is probably more likely. The question you're asking may have already been asked multiple times. There's only 3 people here. Claudia, Orja, and Mansi are super, super capable, super smart, and super fast. But there are 3 of them and 127 of you. So that means they have to keep their eyes on roughly 40 people to make sure everything's okay. That's a lot to handle. So don't worry, they'll get to your question as soon as they can. Just chill out. Don't worry. They'll help you out. If they can't, if they get to it right away, it's not that they want to talk to you. It's just they're super, super, super busy. Or I might have said it already, or it's a question that's already been answered. The other thing, and this is the rarer thing, but they might not answer your question and dismiss it because it might not be appropriate. If it's something kind of mean or a question that we don't usually ask people in public, we're just going to dismiss that. It's not that we don't want to talk to you, but it's just this might not be the time or place to talk about that stuff. Makes sense. Last but not least, if you're watching a recording of this, welcome. None of those features work for you because you're watching a recording. I'm happy you're here, but yeah, I will not be answering your questions live because that would be an amazing feature to have. But then you'd be calling me at all hours of the day. So we won't be able to do that on the recording. And the last thing we're going to use today is the poll. Claudia is my poll expert for this. She will pop up the first poll. Again, not available on the recording. And it's just going to ask some basic information for you. So we'll just wait for that. You might need to scroll to see all 3 questions, but if you've not done this before, you don't remember, this is the tool we're going to be using to answer the questions today in the quiz. So just listing who's participating. Like these quizzes are generally targeted for people in grades 6 to 8, but sometimes people play with younger folks, older folks, friends and family, whatever. Are you doing this at home? Are you doing this in school? And lastly, how are you playing? Is it just you in front of the device? Or maybe you are a teacher and you got like 20 people in front of you. So you're taking in all the information and you're popping it in the machine for them. All right, we're just gonna wait a few more seconds to get some more answers in. Yeah, I think we got a good number there, Claudia. You can lock those in. Thank you very, very, very much. Again, not available on a recording. Okay, I know we're gonna get lots of questions about this, so listen to what I'm saying. Just listen. Don't start typing. Hold on. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay. How do you get these participation prizes? Well, the key things are to attend the live quiz, which is what you're doing right now, or watch a recording to hear the secret password. This is week 4. You've probably noticed that I made the password pretty obvious when it happens. I know sometimes people are like, what if I misspell it? What if I forget to capitalize something or I put an I instead of an O? You remember last week, it was Rosalind Franklin was the password. If you wrote something very, very, very close to that, don't worry. It's okay. If you wrote John Cena, he's a pretty cool guy. I like him in movies. He's funny. Nowhere close to Rosalind Franklin. You would not get a point for that. But when I get to the password, I'm going to make it super obvious. Keep that somewhere. And you're going to put it on the participation form. Now, before you start writing in the chat and the Q&A, where's the participation form? Remember, this is week 4. If you filled it out in past weeks, I'm assuming what has happened is the grown-up who signed you up, might be a family member, might be a teacher, might be a friend or whatever, they're getting that information. And you're going to take the password and put it in that form. You'll receive a badge for doing that and also be eligible for the weekly draws. So remember, apologies to any grown-ups in the room, but the grown-up who signed you up, they'll be able to help you with that. And worst case scenario, if the grown-up's like, I don't know where any of this is, go to our webpage, letstalkscience.ca or parlonsscience.ca en français si tu veux, to get that information. But please don't start writing in the chat and be like, Claudia, what is the password? And where do I put the password? Well, tell me about the password, please. Don't worry, the grown-up has that information, okay? All right, so the rules for today, super simple, like usual. So you're gonna write down your answer on the score sheet. If you don't have it, don't sweat it. It's all good. Use something else to write your answer down and keep track of your score. Try not to look in the study handbook because that's like cheating. So try not to do that. Yeah, of course you can look at it. I'm not gonna call you out or anything like that. But remember, the whole idea of these quizzes that we're doing for 10 weeks, remember we're on 4 of 10, is to prepare you for the final quiz that's gonna happen in May. So yeah, we're keeping track of points keeping track of score for fun. But the last one, the one in May that's going to happen, the big one after all those 10, that we're really going to count points, that we're going to really pay attention to what people are doing. So we're training you. We don't want you to cheat because then you're sort of cheating yourself out of training. But don't sweat it, okay? Don't freak out if you don't know. Totally work in teams or individually as long as you're doing that safely, of course, maintaining social distancing, all that wonderful stuff. And as I've said several times, please don't spam the Q&A or the chat, and adding, please don't be mean to people, because I really don't dig that. I know some people, they're like, Charles, your jokes are dumb. I can take it. I don't like hearing it, but please don't do that to other people. I just want everyone to have a good time. And we're going to go through 10 questions for a total of 12 points. Now, we're going to be going through 3 rounds. As per usual, we're going to do a multiple choice round. Remember, it's going to be a question, a bunch of options. You got to pick the right one to get a point. Number 2, true or false. I'm going to say something. There's going to be a statement. Is that statement correct or incorrect? You decide. And last but not least, the visual round, where we're going to show you potentially a video, an image, something, and there'll be questions tied to that. Of course, those questions might be multiple choice. They might be true or false, different types of questions, but there's a visual element. And you can see the 5 categories there: STEM and context, general knowledge, multidisciplinary, career, and reading. And the topic this week, there's my friend Lexi. Hey, what do you think? You guys could be buddies. Well, you're plastic and small, and Lexi's kind of like clay and big. Lexi also seems to enjoy light for physics. Awesome. Can I get hands up to let me know that we are ready to do this? Because we're going to start the quiz. All right, 40, 50 of you are ready. 60, 70-ish of you. All right, that's more than half. So I'm going to hopefully assume that everyone else is chill. We can put our hands down. We're going to do this for real. Let us begin. We are going to question number 1. Where are we going? Our first question is from Megan Williamson. So Megan works at the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. Sounds like a pretty serious job. So as per usual, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the video. I'm going to mute myself, listen to the video. They're going to ask you a question. Worst case, if you didn't hear it too well, once the video's done, I'm going to go to the slide. It's going to show you the question, and it's going to show you the options that she's talking about. So here we go for number 1.
Hi, my name is Megan, and I work for the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, which is the federal organization responsible for regulating the use of nuclear energy and materials in Canada. The question is, which of the following is a good safety procedure when working with electricity? Is it A, wearing a hard hat, B, wearing safety goggles, C, wearing ear protection, or D, wearing insulating gloves and clothing? Good luck.
And I'm assuming that for their job, safety is probably really, really, really important. All right, so the question was, which of the following is a good safety practice when working with electricity? Wearing a hard hat, wearing safety goggles, wearing ear protection, or wearing insulating gloves and clothing? So Claudia, can you pop up the first answer sheet, please? All right, and I'm going to start that 25-second timer. Here we go. So remember, you want to pick your answer and then click submit. We're talking safety, we're talking working with electricity. Which of those options? Hard hat, safety goggles, ear protection, or insulating gloves and clothing? Which is the one that we're looking for when we're talking specifically about electricity? So pick the answer that you think is correct, then click submit, and then we'll take a look at what people are saying. All right, a few more seconds left. Get those answers in. All right, so let's lock those in, Claudia, and we can flip them around to take a look. And the percentages, just a reminder, the percentages are not going to add up, and don't sweat it if this is your situation. The reason that this is happening is if you're in a group, you may have shared the join link with a bunch of people. So let's say I was a teacher and Mr. Charles shared his link with 20 students. Well, it looks like Mr. Charles is voting 20 times. So don't worry about it. We'll talk about the straight numbers here. All right, so which of the following is a good safety practice when working with electricity? Well, the bulk of the odds, a whole bunch of you went with wearing insulating gloves and clothing, and then we dropped down a fair bit to wearing safety goggles, and then nobody, zero, picked wearing a hard hat or wearing ear protection. So for 1 point, give yourself 1 point if you picked wearing insulating gloves and clothing. Mansi, can I ask you a question? Oh, sorry, just muted there.
Yeah, sure.
Why is this a good idea when working with electricity?
Oh, you don't want to get shocked. So when the electricity passes, it creates a shock in your body, and eventually you will have a major problem and you will run for the hospital thing.
Very delicate answer. Yes, you don't want to get electrocuted when dealing with high levels of electricity. I mentioned to the quiz group yesterday, I discovered this at a very young age when I was unplugging my brother. My brother's older than me, his light bright, who he had for a long time, and I didn't realize the cord was kind of like not in great shape, and I got an incredible shock. Now, had I known that, I probably had little ones. It would have been smarter for me to unplug it that way. I'm okay. I've led an interesting life and had plenty of accidents. All right, let's go to question number 2. Talking about some reading here. Of course, we'll have lots of reading questions because of that study handbook that you have. Okay, which of the following is not, keyword is not, a renewable source of energy used to generate electricity? Is it water? Is it coal? Is it wind? Or is it biofuels? All right, Claudia, can you pop up number 2, please? Let's go. 25 seconds. We're talking about renewable sources of energy. So one of those there, out of all 4, is specifically not a renewable source of energy. So what do you think? Out of all these things, we could do stuff with them to make electricity. What do you think? Just a few more seconds left. Get your answers in. All right, we'll lock those in and we will take a look. So a lot of people opted for coal, and then we drop down to biofuels. And then it's a tie for 3rd place between wind and water. Okay, interesting. Pretty big point spread, but still answers all over the place. Let's take a look for 1 point what you should be going with. You should be looking at coal. Or John, what is a renewable source of energy? What does that mean?
A renewable source of energy is a source of energy that doesn't run out when you use it. You can renew it.
Okay, so you're sort of keeping things in check. It's not like we use it, and then we eventually run out. Okay, that's interesting. So years ago, I used to work in a museum that talked about a non-renewable source of energy. It was a fossil fuel, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, that's just like like organic matter and stuff, dinosaurs and old plants and things." And sometimes people thought, "Well, that's renewable because like my great granddad, he had a farm and he had a cow and it died, so that's going to turn to gasoline." It will, won't it?
It will, but after millions of years and lots of heat, lots of pressure, and lots of time. So
exactly.
It's not renewable in the sense that we'll be able to use it anytime soon.
No, exactly. You know how sometimes you get upset if your pizza delivery takes a long time? Well, you're going to be waiting a lot more than 30 minutes or 30 years or 300 years for that stuff to become a source of energy. Yeah, perfect. Sorry?
Even 300,000.
Oh my God. Yeah. Millions. Big time. Exactly. Perfect. Secret password alert. All right. So this is where you're going to want to pay attention to one of those words. It's the one written in red. So speaking of biofuels, the last one on that list, they can be broken down into several categories. So you have ethanol, which can be made from corn or sugarcane. Those things are delicious. Do not put ethanol in your body. That would be a horrible idea. But those things that we can consume, again, sugarcane, not exactly healthy, those can be used to make biofuels. Biodiesel can be made out of vegetable oils. I mentioned one of the quizzes earlier. I can't remember if it was your group. That's why there's actually some people who have cars that they'll legit go to like a fast food place or like a restaurant and take their French fry oil and they'll purify it and they can use that oil to power their car. That'd be pretty cool. Could you imagine if you smelled like fries? That might be kind of annoying. It'd be kind of cool for a bit though. Green diesel can be made from plants or algae. And algae, of course, an aquatic plant. Here comes the fun one. Biogas can be made from manure. That's the word that you're looking for, or other digested organic matter. I specifically wrote this one because I know how young people think. I sometimes think like this. I do enjoy the occasional toilet humor, and I thought I want them to get a point for writing something about poop. So yes, manure is the secret password that you are looking for. So I'll just leave it there. That's the word you're going to put on your participation form later. But yes, this is all real. I'm not making any of this up. These are different types of biofuels. So keyword is manure. If you write something close to that, fine. If you write something totally different, like if you wrote like sugarcane or hippopotamus, it's not going to work out. So the key to success this week is manure, which is a weird thing to say. All right, let's move forward to the next question. All right, doing a general knowledge. Normally, what electrical charge do materials and objects have? Is it positive? Is it negative? I hope not. That sounds really sad. Is it neutral? Or is it none of these? None of the above. Claudia's going to pop up that answer sheet, and I am going to start the timer. Here we go. So normally, in most cases, what electrical charge do materials and objects have? Is it positive, negative, neutral, or none of the above? What do you think? Remember, the key word there is normally. Obviously, things we can change what kind of charge they would have, but normally, what kind of charge does it have? All right, so let's lock in those answers and take a look at what people are saying. All right, so the bulk of the audience went with neutral. No stance whatsoever. We're neutral. And then they went down to positive, and then we dropped down to negative, and then a small percentage of people went with none of the above. All right, so for 1 point, the answer you were looking for was a neutral one. So give yourself 1 point if you picked C. And C?
Yeah.
What would happen if instead humans like us, we all had positive charges? What would happen?
Oh, we would be constantly attracting the negative charges towards us. Like whenever we go and there would be negative charges and they would come and stick to us and we'd be like a shooting machine.
Yeah, and it could be kind of annoying and hurtful too, right? We might be shocking each other too. Awesome. Thank you very, very much. I'll give you a pro tip if you ever want to try this. Please don't tell your teachers I said this. We used to do this when we were little. We used to like rub our feet on the carpet in class and then we'd shock our friends. Not a nice thing to do, but that's how you can give yourself a bit of a positive charge. But it does hurt. My cats do this to me inadvertently. They're very floofy. And if it's dry in the house, they get super fuzzy and they're like, hey, come pet me. And then like they shoot a tiny lightning bolt out of their nose and it hurts my elbow because they try to rub on me. Yeah. But normally we're all neutral. All right. We're not going to true or false. Remember, it's going to be a statement. Is the statement correct or incorrect, true or false? If you don't know, just give it a try. It's a 50-50 chance. All right. Let's take a look. We're doing great. And actually, before we go too far, Claudia, are there any questions that everyone needs to know about or we're doing okay?
Nope, we're all pretty good.
Perfect. And the chat's okay? No spammies?
No, we're good.
Perfect. Thanks, Claudia. All right. True or false? Wind turbines convert potential energy into electrical energy. All right. So Claudia's going to pop up the answer sheet for number 4. And let's start that timer. Here we go. I'll be honest with you. The group yesterday got this one wrong, the bulk of the audience. So wind turbines, you might have some in your neighborhood, maybe not in your neighborhood, well, maybe in your neighborhood or close by. Where I am, not too many around here that I could easily get to, but wind turbines convert potential energy into electrical energy. Is that true or is that false? Perfect. Let's lock in those answers and we will take a look. Okay, so most of you, it's pretty close between the two, but most of you went to true, and then few of you went for false. So for 1 point, the correct answer is as false. Urja, what kind of energy is it converting then?
It's converting kinetic energy into potential energy, or electrical energy, sorry.
So what is that?
Electrical. Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. Kinetic means to move. So anytime something moves, it has a certain type of energy, specifically kinetic energy.
And it's then taking that through some wonderful magic using generators, boom, turning that electrical. So I mentioned like where I am in Ottawa here, if I look out my window, I don't see any nearby. I probably have to drive a fair bit to see one. But what we do have here is we actually have some hydropower. Like we don't have like Niagara Falls, but we have, water that's moving quickly enough and it's turning some turbines there. That's essentially the same sort of principle, but like super general here, but water instead of wind, right? Okay, interesting, cool. Thank you very, very much. All right.
Thank you.
So it's all right, folks. Most of the folks got it wrong. It happened yesterday too. It's okay. It's a trend. It's all good. Let's move to number 5. General knowledge. All right, true or false? This one's a tough one. A moving car has a greater total energy than a parked car. All right, so Claudia is going to pop up that answer sheet. Let's start that 25-second timer. Here we go. So a moving car has greater total energy than a parked car. Remember, some of these questions are written a little bit tricky. You got to pay attention to a couple of keywords in there because it might seem like a question you've heard before, but something slightly switched. All right, just a few more seconds left, and we'll be halfway through this week's quiz. All right, let's lock that in, and let's take a look. Almost the same like percentages for the last one. So 70 picked true, 70 people picked true, and 54 picked false. So let's take a look. Did the majority get it right or not? The answer here is false. So again, the same thing happened yesterday too with yesterday's group. So the minority got the answer correct. So give yourself 1 point if you picked false. All right, let us go to number 6. We're now on that downward slope, heading down to number 10. All right, so multidisciplinary. Here we go. True or false, the human body acts as an insulator. All right, Claudia, if you can pop up number 6, please. Let's start that 25-second timer. Here we go. So true or false, the human body acts as an insulator. And I'll be honest, much like yesterday, the group actually got this one wrong too. A lot of people got like thrown for a loop for the true and false ones this week. All right, so half the time has elapsed. The human body acts as an insulator. Is that correct or incorrect? What do you think? What's up, Jessica? Do you think you know? All right, we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's take a look at the answers. Oh, something slightly different. So it's almost like you flip the numbers from the last two. So 73 people picked false and 54 people picked true. And the correct answer here is false. You broke the trend. Yesterday, the group picked the under one. Awesome. So Urja, what does that mean we are?
That means we're conductors.
Okay. Does that, if we go back to question 1, does that sort of explain why safety equipment is good? Exactly. So if I ever saw a downed power line, I wouldn't be like, let's go touch that, right? That would be a horrible idea. Exactly. So we're not insulators. We are conductors. Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, let's move to number 7. Are we still doing okay, Claudia?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Doing a reading question. So leaning on that manual. True or false, natural gas produces the greatest amount of energy per unit of mass. Is that correct or incorrect? So Claudia's going to pop up that answer sheet. Let's start that timer. I know when we talk about natural gas, everyone thinks it's a fart joke, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the natural gas that you find hilarious. We're talking about the stuff in the ground. So does that produce, is that true, produce the greatest amount of energy per unit of mass of like all these other different types? What do you think, true or false? All right, the answers are coming in. 80% of you have answered. A few more seconds left. All right, let's lock those in and take a look. So a little bit different than the last couple ones. We've got more of a spread between the two groups of true versus false. So a lot of you went for true, and then less than half of that went for false. So the correct answer for 1 point is true. Yeah, way to go, way to go, way to go. So if you pick true, please give yourself 1 point. Third round, we are going to be doing visuals. Remember, this is a round that we'll be using either pictures or videos. Can I just have hands up to make sure that we're okay to move forward? I just want to make sure we didn't leave anyone behind or anything like that. Just make sure everyone's okay. Perfect. No major questions from the audience still, Claudia? We're good to go?
Yes, all good.
Perfect. All right. Oh, there's only a few people. There's only 30-ish of you. No one's asking, like, didn't miss anything? I just want to make sure that we're okay to move forward, folks. That's what I'm asking if people can put their hands up. I'll wait a few seconds, okay? Because there's like less than half of you saying it. I hope you're okay. I'm going to move forward. If by chance you can put your hands down. If by chance anyone misses anything, we can always go back and revisit it. Thank you very, very much. Okay. So the next category is in the visual round, talking about reading. It's a sprint. So if you don't remember, totally fine. Or if you're new to this, it's okay. What's going to happen in a second is I'm going to click and we're going to see 1, 2, 3 questions. So what will happen is instead of 25 seconds, you'll actually have 45 to answer the question. And you'll have to be able, sorry, what happens when I ask Claudia to, when she pops up the answer sheet, what you're going to need to do is make sure that you answer all 1, 2, 3, and then click submit. Because if you just answer 1 and then click submit, it's not going to register. It's going to think that you're done. So make sure you put all your answers in. And this question is worth 3 points. Don't sweat it if by chance you get one wrong. It's not like you got to get all 3 to get all 3 points. You get as many points as you do answers that you got correct. And this one's going to be a little different this week. And the reason for that is every question has the exact same answer. That's not a mistake. We're talking about 3 different things. So you can see in the little quadrant down here, we have a picture of my old friend, the atom, super tiny, super interesting. And we're pointing to 3 things. So the first question, what is A pointing to? Which is the outside circle. It's sort of blue that you can see with a white line. Is it pointing to a neutron, an electron, a proton, or a positron? B, right smack dab in the middle, it's the orange circle. So the circle with nothing on it, no plus or minus. Is that thing a neutron, an electron, a proton, or a positron? And number 3, what is C pointing to? So also in the middle, kind of looks like a nice little red skittle there, but with a little plus sign on it. Is that a, you guessed it, neutron, electron, proton, or positron? So remember, this will be 45 seconds instead of 25. You got to answer 1, 2, and 3, and then click submit. And if you get one wrong, don't worry about it. We're only going to count the points of what you got right. All right, so Claudia, are you okay to pop up that answer sheet, please? And let's start that timer. Here we go. We've talked about atoms a couple of times in different quizzes, so some of them you might remember the parts from those ones. But this is what we want to know. A, that blue with white circle, what is that out of the 4 options? B is the orange one hanging out in the middle of that party out of those 4 options. And C, also hanging out in the middle, just the red one with the plus sign. So for all 3 of them, you have to say, is it a neutron, an electron, a proton, and a positron? I'll give you a bit of a hint. All 3 of those things are different, so good chance that no 2 have the same answer, okay? Just remember that when you're putting your answers through. Just a few more seconds left. All right, we got 90% of people answering. Perfect. Let's lock those in and take a look. Instead of going through all of them, which will take a lot of time, I'll just see which ones are sort of the more popular ones. So big decisions here. So most of the audience for A went to electron, then we dropped down to neutron, then proton, then positron. For B, that is the orange one there in the middle, most of the crowd went to neutron, then electron, then proton, and no one picked positron. Interesting. And for C, that is also in the middle as well, the red with a plus. Most of the crowd went for proton, then we dropped down to neutron, electron, and then positron. So let's look at those answers. You get 1 point each for the correct ones. So please give yourself 1 point if you said A was an electron, which is most of the audience. Yes, that is what most of the audience went to. So for A, if you picked electron, give yourself 1 point. Okay, B, that is the orange one in the middle. Give yourself 1 point if you picked neutron. And yes, based on the answers I'm seeing here, most of the audience picked neutron. So please give yourself 1 point there. And I was about to say number 3, but I meant letter C, the red one in the middle. Give yourself 1 point if you picked proton, which, yes, yet again, people have been reading their book. Good to see, good to see. That's what you want to be going for. So yeah, 1 point for electron for A, 1 point for neutron for B, and 1 point for proton for C. Again, this stuff is super tiny, as we've talked about atoms in different weeks. I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds and make sure you can track your points. Can you give me a hand up to let me know when it's okay to move forward? I don't want to like bail on anyone here and leave them wondering what the score was. All right. Okay. Got a good number, folks. If anyone missed it, they can help you in the Q&A and we can always go back to it. So just one more time. A is electron, B is neutron, C is proton. None of them are positron. Let's move forward. Take a look. I believe we're going to question number 9, the second last question. Okay, so the question here is Courtney, and we're talking about Courtney Sharwardy from HMDC, uses a metaphor to describe her job. What is Courtney's job similar to? So a metaphor is kind of like a different way of explaining something. You can be like, this is easy as pie, right? So obviously, like pie and something being easy, it's a little bit different. But she's going to use a metaphor to describe her job. So I want you to pay attention to when she's like, my job is kind of like blah, blah, blah. She doesn't actually say blah, blah, blah. I just don't want to give you the answer right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute myself, and then I'm going to play the video for you, and then we're going to come back. We'll see the question again, and you'll have the answers to pick from. So here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Sharp-Rorty, and I'm a petroleum measurement engineer with Hibernian Management and Development Company. You may be wondering, what the heck is a petroleum measurement engineer? And I have to admit that I wondered the same thing when I got my job. I am responsible for the accurate measurement of all of our oil, water, and gas on the Hibernia platform, as well as all of the oil that gets loaded to our tankers for sale. It is important that we have accountability of all of our flow streams on the platform so that we can ensure the safety of our personnel, the environment, and also maximize the money that we make. Also, all of our flow streams have to balance. So if we take a certain amount of oil, water, and gas from the ground, it is my responsibility to make sure that I know exactly where all of that oil, water, and gas is going on the surface. It's like one big math equation. In order to know how much fluid we have in all of the different pipes on the platform, we use devices called flow meters. These flow meters come in different shapes and sizes and use different chemical and physical properties of the fluid to measure the rate at which it passes by. Some meters measure pressure drop across a restriction, while other meters shoot beams out into the fluid to measure the speed at which that beam travels through the fluid in order to understand the flow rate at which that fluid is moving. Sometimes it can get a little complicated, but that's when I utilize technology and talk to my colleagues all over the world to get their help. In one day, I'll sometimes talk to people in Canada, the United States, and even as far as Bangkok, Thailand. I'm so lucky to have such a rewarding career in my own hometown. I grew up in Paradise, Newfoundland, and I hope to be able to raise my kids here too someday. It's too bad that we don't get to meet in person, because I'd love to get the opportunity to hear more about you guys and be able to answer your questions. Until next year, stay safe and be kind. And thanks for taking the time to listen to me speak today and talk a little bit about my career.
All right. Did you hear that? She uses lasers in her job. I know, lasers. Okay, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Courtney, for talking about your job. Now, there was one key statement I wanted you to listen for. So she uses a metaphor, which is again sort of like a little comparison type thing. What is Courtney's job similar to? Did she say it's like one big math equation? Did she say it was like following a recipe? Did she say it was like watching an episode of Young Sheldon? Or did she say, nah, this sounds pretty awesome, like eating the best chicken wings in the world? All right, Claudia, can you pop up the answer sheet for number 9? Let's start that timer. How did Courtney describe her job in sort of a simpler term? Math equation, following a recipe, watching Young Sheldon, or chicken wings. Oh, man, you know I get hungry every time. This is the late night quiz for me. I'm getting hungry. I would love to eat chicken wings, but that would be weird and embarrassing for you. I get all messy, be kind of weird. I don't think you'd enjoy that. I'd enjoy it, but I wouldn't want to do that on camera. All right, let's lock in those answers and take a look. All right, so the bulk of the audience went for like one big math equation. Then we dropped down to like following a recipe. Some people thought it was a chicken wing thing. Great minds. And then, yes, we dropped down after to watching an episode of Young Sheldon. And Courtney described her job as one big math equation. If you remember, she talked about removing all the resources from, because they work on an oil platform on water, so they're doing stuff underwater, getting oil, water, rocks, and all that, and making sure when they bring it to the surface, everything sort of matches up. Very, very cool. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's go to number 10. Last one for this week. All right, so a reading question. Oh, this is a tough one. This image represents the photovoltaic effect. What a fun word. What components what component is the arrow pointing to? And we're talking about the big black arrow here that's sort of pointing to that turquoise or teal layer on the bottom. Imagine this is a chocolate bar. This is where your nougat's at. All right, so we're talking about that. Is that the p-type semiconductor? Is it the n-type semiconductor? Is it the electron, or is it the proton? So this is from your book. It's a bit of a tough one though. Claudia's going to pop up the answer sheet for number 10. I'm going to start that timer. That photovoltaic effect. So we're not talking about the dark blue or the white lines or the orange. We're talking about the one at the bottom layer, turquoise, with little circles and minus symbols. Is that the p-type semiconductor, the n-type semiconductor, the electron, or the proton? Do you remember from your book? If you don't remember, or if you didn't get a chance to read it, take a guess. It's okay. We don't do negative points. All right, let's lock in those answers. Things are a little bit more spread out, it looks like here. So most of the audience, but not like a super big blowout here, but most of the audience went with n-type conductor. Then we drop down to p-type, and then we drop down to electron, and then we drop down to proton. All right. So the correct answer here for 1 point. This is a real tough one. Give yourself a point if you picked p-type. Oh, so it wasn't the majority of the audience. It was the second place answer. So give yourself 1 point. Roger, can I ask you a question about this?
Yeah.
What's a real example of a photovoltaic cell? What is that? Like, how would I see that in the real world?
You can see it in a solar panel, which I have right here in my calculator.
No way.
Yeah.
I was talking with you and Mancy about that. I didn't know if that was still a relevant example, because I used that in high school way back when. Okay, I was in high school a long time. We weren't dinosaurs, but yeah, I didn't know if people still used calculators with that. And sometimes solar panels, you can see them on houses and buildings, different types of ways of generating electricity. If you want to talk like really old calculator, and I'm making fun of my brother here, but he's not here. I'm making fun of my brother a little bit, but he's older than me. His calculator, when he went to high school, no joke, he had to plug it in the wall. That's how big and old it was. It was a chonky boy. It was huge. Like if you put that in your pocket, it's going to rip your pocket off. Awesome. Thank you for the real world example there. Perfect.
Thank you.
So that is everything, but please don't go just yet. So a couple of reminders. Remember to fill out the participation form. Again, I apologize to any grown-ups in the room, but these are the folks who have that information for you. So again, it could be a teacher, it could be a parent, it could be a family member, friend, whoever signed you up, they have that there. Remember to put the word, this is going to be the weirdest sentence I say all week. Remember to put the word manure on that form, because that is the secret password. I'm so lucky and happy that they let me put that down for you guys. The design and build challenge. So this is more so for the grown-ups if they're logging you in. We've changed to different usernames. You have until March 14th to send us the video for the physics design and build. And the next one's going to be released in a couple of days on Friday. You're lucky because you were here before this date, but with the chat with a scientist, you get to speak with a mathematician tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Again, depending where you are, that will be a different time, which is really cool. I mean, I do work for Let's Talk Science. I don't get to chat with scientists on a weekly basis. That's really cool that folks your age get to do this. I know that makes me sound super old, but when I was younger, we didn't have the internet, and I didn't get to sit in front of a camera or something and talk to scientists and ask them rando questions, things like that about their expertise. So tomorrow will be a mathematician. Remember, password is manure. Super weird. I'm sorry. If your parents think I'm a dork now, I'm sorry. I just wanted you to be engaged, and I thought you'd remember a question about poop. All right. And if you're a teacher or grown up or whatever, and you'd like to share how you're doing this sort of thing, you can do that online. We're using the hashtag LTSC2021. LTSC is for the Let's Talk Science Challenge in 2021. Well, that's the year. If you want to tag us at all on Facebook or Twitter, use the same one at Let's Talk Science. Instagram, slightly different. It's LTScience_PS. That is for Let's Talk Science. And the PS is for Parlons Science. So you can do that as well. If you want to share pictures of teachers showing how their classes are doing and whatnot. The key thing I forgot to mention, or maybe I didn't mention it last week. If you do this, please don't share parts that show like the questions or answers. You guys are right in the middle of the week, which means that it sort of would help the Friday folks out. We don't want to do that. We want everyone to have this sort of like equal playing field going through this, no cheating. All right. And next week's topic is weird circles with letters. No, I don't think that's what it is. It is mathematics. We will be talking about math. which is going to be tough for me, but it'll be fun. And remember, don't sweat it. I want you folks having a good time doing this. So if you're doing this in a group, or if you're an educator and you're like, man, these chapters are a little heavy for some of the folks in my group, just remember that if you can safely work in a team, you can actually break that chapter up, right? So you can read a couple of pages, your buddy reads a couple of pages, your other buddy reads a couple of pages, and you can sort of be experts in that specific chapter. Break it up, do whatever it is that makes it easy for you. Do it the way that helps you learn the best. People learn things different ways, so I don't want to stress you out, right? And remember, I'm not going to make funny, I'm not going to laugh at you. I made fun of my brother. That's it. He loves me. I love him. It's all good. No one's going to make fun of you about this stuff. So seriously, I just want you to chill out and have a good time. Huge thank you to Megan Williamson from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission and from Courtney Sharp-Rorty from HMDC. She's way out there in Newfoundland, as you mentioned, out in Paradise. What a great name for a town. So thank you to them. And I just wanted to say thank you to Claudia and to Urja and to Mansi for helping me today. Thank you folks for joining us this evening. One last super big favor to ask for you is Claudia's going to pop up one more poll for people to fill out. And just some basic information. So before watching the video, had you ever heard about Courtney's job or knew what that sort of thing was? Again, it's not chicken, it's as awesome as that would